Michelle.
Yes, it's okay. It's completely okay. Recording now.
Good evening. Thank you very much. This is a special workshop meeting for the council and the department heads. And this is what, our next to last workshop?
This will be the last workshop.
Last workshop, because what we do next is the preliminary final. And I will tell you, this has been an adventure all year with trying to get numbers, but we think we're really, really close. So I'm calling the meeting to order. And this is the fiscal year 2021-2022 Budget Review Workshop, Projected Revenues and Expenses. Madam Clerk, you have provided us with a lot of information, so you have the floor. How come you're here? I thought you went to the thing.
I just figured
Great guy.
I now have a voice.
I'd you.
Okay, so revenues and expenses, you have your sheets. You can either join online, or I did provide a hard copy for everyone in case you want to follow that way. You will see that this budget is balanced at this point. Now, I do want to point out that I still do not have our numbers from the county yet. I know that two of the employees over there, the clerk and her deputy, did go to a meeting out of state, and they are due to be back tomorrow, I believe. So when they get back, I will be contacting them and asking them if they have any revelation on if our numbers are going to change from what we anticipate them to be. So again, these are not hard numbers at this point. This is what we, like I said, anticipated being. We took our history of what we've done in the past and just went that way. So, you know, they could change. The next time that we meet will be the meeting on the 27th, I believe is the date. And that will be when you approve the tentative budget. Now, then the public hearing for the real budget will be in August, the first week of August, first meeting of August. So that's when we should have everything finalized. Okay? So let's start with revenues. Oh, a couple of more things that I'd like to point out. We were able to give all of our employees a 3% COLA raise in these numbers. In addition to, I do believe everyone knows that our health insurance rates went up 9.5% this year. So that created some workarounds for us, some putting some more pencils to numbers on how we're going to accomplish this. It was decided by the group that we did not want our employees to take on that 9.5% on their side, so we took it on. So in the numbers reflected, that is showing that the employees' premiums, what they pay out of their pocket, will not increase. We're taking them out of our side of it. So we're trying to support our employees. We all know how hard and how difficult it is to keep good employees on, and we want to keep our people that we have here. So that is the best we can do at this point. And are there any questions so far on any of that?
Mayor,
Yes.
are all the employees pretty happy with the new insurance that they're getting provided?
I have not received complaints about our new insurance, and I don't think anyone else has either. And the actual, yeah, the IIIA will be here August 11th to do a presentation to all employees. So they've all been invited to a lunch and learn on the 11th, and they will be presented with the new things that are out for their benefits, because they always add a few things on year after year. So that will be on the 11th when that happens. So let's roll on into it if we're ready to go, and we'll start with revenues. So revenues Some of the numbers in general fund revenues and throughout were taken from the AIC manual, and most of them, what we did is we took our current, where we are on revenues currently, and our percentages year-to-date, and did that as a guide on where we should be sitting going into the next year. So are there any questions concerning general fund revenues on any particular items?
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
on the building permit one, I see we're pretty conservative on that. Are we anticipating anything changing next year, Brian, or is it going to stay pretty much where we're at? Do you have any idea?
I don't know.
'Cause with-
I would say it'll stay pretty consistent to where we're at right now.
Because Legacy Heights, are they coming in probably?
They should be done with Legacy if they get started soon,
Okay.
this year.
Uh-huh.
And then phase 3, 4, and 5 of Payette River Orchard should be done, by winter, by October, I would guess. So that's gonna open up a lot more lots that are, I think, already reserved. So I don't think we're gonna slow down any.
Any other topics that we'd like to discuss on general fund revenues? Okay, let's go down to roads and streets. Are there any concerns with roads and streets revenue? We did this year go ahead and put the other franchise fee over. So now the road department is receiving all of our franchise fees. So that increased their revenues by about 50,000. And it was the gas and the cable, both of those that come over. Last year, we did the power. Okay, moving on.
I have a question for Clint. So how much then have we increased the general revenues for roads within the last, say, 3 years, approximately?
Well, all in all, about 200,000.
And what will that buy us as a practical matter with current prices for product?
Probably 4 more city blocks of new roadway
Just
and
thinking.
drainage, and you got some components in there.
It's,
A lot more than we've been able to do.
but still substantially less than a mile.
I mean, the 87 that we started, just enough for maintenance.
All right, thank you.
Take care of those potholes.
Moving on to library. Library is pretty solid year to year. Are there any questions for Alice for library? Okay, cemetery. Any concerns there that you would like to discuss? Okay. So now we're going to move on to water on page 3.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
The water meter installation, that's just budgeted. Is that something for these new subdivisions going in or something? Is that?
Correct, so
Okay.
those are our connection fees, and so, I was very conservative on that, because obviously, we didn't change anything in our collections, we know we'll have higher collections, and I think we'll easily top 300 plus, so just stay conservative, but be able to get projects done and things accomplished, and it's with a lot of dollars in savings, so.
Okay, moving on to sewer fund. Everyone good? Okay, sanitation.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I mean, on the sanitation fund, is that kind of an in and out for the city? Is it, there's no real gain for the city on sanitation, is there?
There is a gain.
There is?
So what we collect, we keep 65% of the income on collections, and then the other 35 goes to the sanitation company, or thereabouts, around that area.
So why did this go down 0.2%?
Interest income.
It affected every single fund, every single fund. I had to make big adjustments in that category on everything. And I shared before, like on the LGIP fund, we were getting 2.5%, and as of right now, it's 0.18. So that's how much it's gone down. So those adjustments are in every single fund that has interest income.
Yes, sir.
Do we, on the garbage can fees that they charge, do we get a percentage of that, or does that
That's
go
a
straight to
pass-through.
them?
That's a pass-through straight across on that.
You know, any idea how much that is
What they get?
per year?
Well, I've got it down here as a separate category, so about 78,000 for the year,
Okay, I see, sorry.
yes.
Thank you.
And that can go up and down depending on, services. If we get more people, we could be up on that, or less people, which I doubt. Okay, and then moving on to our new utility tech fund. Any questions for Mike on that one?
Yes, sir.
So Megan, this is probably based on, is this on subdivision stuff too, that fiber optic going in, any of that, or?
We have, so for the revenue side of things, we've been receiving a grant every month where we're getting paid $1,600 as part of our fiber optic utilities. So that will continue through next year, and then the subscriber fees, so that does include part of those. But I anticipate, I think that's pretty conservative, what I have put in there, so we should easily hit those marks with the residential stuff that's coming, as long, along with, everything, the hospital, and, we've had some other inquiries to expand the fiber over the last 2 weeks as well, so I think that's pretty conservative.
Now, is it Techfinity, is that who's at 8 River Orchards?
Yeah, it's now Fabi
Oh,
acquired Tech.
Okay. So now are they leasing those lines from us, is that? Okay, and that's part of this, is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, so just to clarify, the lines in the subdivision are not ours, those are theirs, but to get them to the subdivision, yes.
Okay, moving on to the projects, which is the latecomer fees. And just anticipate that on being, their normal amount. I don't know how much more that there's development in that area, but that's what we put in.
Increase those, everything in Pant River, Legacy.
That's all going to be
on
latecomers
12th
too.
Street,
Okay.
Kelsey Peterson, that's all latecomers.
Okay,
Ryan? So is that from the well that was put in by Carberry?
The well, that's the school district, so they get a portion of
Okay.
that, the $500, and then the $575, Lowell Rosenbaum, who extended the sewer line down 12th Street, he gets the other portion.
And that affects all of the Pay River Orchards legacy?
Yes. Yes, that's all.
Wow. How long will that go for?
2050.
So-
We extended it, you guys extended it a couple of years ago to 2050.
So every annexation in the future that runs off that line
It
would,
runs in that line that's in that impacted map area that's mapped out, yeah, they will pay into the impact for that, the latecomers fees for that line.
We're not doing that anymore, right?
No. Well, if we do, it'll be a lot better organized.
Yeah, so don't forget that we will be entering into that for the Barris project for the extension of the sewer line, but it's a 10-year sunset, not a 50-year.
It's not a wide open.
Not a wide open, we have much more control of the impact area instead of just a big gap.
Is Barris the one that took that house out?
Yes.
Where's it going?
Who's it stealing away from us? We don't care. I heard he wanted to put it on his property
Okay, so the next section is total of all funds. So as you can see, our budget increased by 3.23% from last year, from our current year that we're in now on revenues. And then the bottom of the page on those property tax revenues, they're split out on who is getting, what departments are getting the dollar amounts. And 3% was included in that also. Okay, now popping over to expenses on page 5. Again, we'll start with general fund expenses. Not much change in council or executive. Clerk's department, I did put in some part-time wages for the new employee, as we discussed before. There was an increase of $7,000 for our roof that we're possibly going to put on next year. And the audit went up because of the funds that COVID funds that we have received, and they're over a certain dollar amount, so we have to do a single audit on those funds. So that's why that increased so much. That'll be $3,000 just for that, plus another $500 for their normal increase that they do each and every year. Are there any questions on the clerk expenses? Down to city attorney. In the past, we have given Jake a 3%, just like we do our employees, so that is included in there.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
so I don't see the 3% on the contract. Is that with the county?
That is a standard contract. That doesn't change. That doesn't go up or down. That's been the same for a while.
Just the legal fees, is Jake's portion?
Yeah,
of it?
legal fees is Jake's. That's correct. Planning and zoning, theirs went up a little bit because they are putting on an extra employee, of course, and along with the employee comes the health benefits and the taxes and the PERSI. Any questions on planning and zoning? Okay, let's move on to police department. Are there any particular line items that you would like to discuss on police department? Because Mr. Bertolato can explain it.
How many questions do I get to ask?
Oh,
We'll put you on the spot,
I'll put you on
Ryan.
a timer. How's that?
Yes.
Or what about dispatch, see what, yeah.
Yes, so the formula for dispatch is based off of the amount of usage. And we had officers who were not running as many traffic stops, not as many calls for service. So each time that they get the radio, each time that a traffic stop's conducted, each time that they go out for a call of service, run someone, it's like a taxi cab meter, and that meter's running.
Okay. So we didn't have as
So-
many stops and many calls as we had in the past.
Yes, we were not as active in one way or another.
Got it.
And Michelle, on this, we always pay in arrears too. So the amount that we have in there, the 41,000 or 44,000 that's in there, that's actually their calculation from the prior year, and we put it into the next year budget. So we're paying in arrears on it.
But that makes sense for us being short-staffed over set periods of time.
We went through about 2.5 years where we were fully staffed. But unfortunately, that's ended this fiscal year. So more than likely, I could see that dispatch being also on the slower side maybe here this next year. But as we go into 2021 with new officers who are new to the community and maybe a little bit more eager to make traffic stops or make contact with the community, we might see that go up in 2022 or 2020.
Mr. President.
Brian, on the dues and subscriptions, do you know, is that like for e-ticket and different programs you're bringing on, because it almost doubled in price?
Yes, sir, so really good question there, and our big expense that jumps that dues and subscriptions was filming. So before we were paying computer arts, but computer arts unfortunately has not kept up with the technology, and did come with a little bit of a price tag, but you get what you pay for, and we have an extremely premier product that will sustain the city for a long time. And so far, it seems to be working out well.
Right. Fire.
Is that it for police? Okay. Fire department. Any questions on any lines for fire department?
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Your equipment maintenance, you have an additional $5,000. Is that something you have planned or just in case?
But like I said before, with our mechanic not getting the house we want to live, we're anticipating an increase there.
Okay, moving on to building. Again, the difference in those is the employee. And just so y'all know, on the health insurance, the reason you're seeing large amounts in that section, our total obligation that we pay every year to IIIA is about $540,500. That's our annual expense out for the employees' health insurance overall. So that's a pretty healthy sum. And they're getting a good product too. Okay, airport. Airport expenses. Are we good? All right,
Before we leave the airport, I want to thank
okay.
Tom Butler for assisting this morning in the flag raising. They dedicated the Purta hangar, and I want to tell you, that is a diamond in the rough out there, that airport. And I had a great talk with one of the builders out there about what we're doing and just how much, frankly, we can make off that airport. I mean, it is a tremendous gem that I think we need to nurture and get that thing squared away. And I had a great talk with Mr. Hurlbutt from the Gulf Association, and he thanked me for having you meet with them on a regular basis during their meetings. And I told him, I said, you know, you hear a lot of stupid rumors, and it's just people talking crap because they don't know any better, but we want both the airport and the Gulf folk to be able to grow. But it may take some patience and some give and take as we reorient some of the holes out there, so that and where you store things, but it'll be a bigger and better deal for you at the end, and he seemed to agree. So thanks, Tom, for helping out.
Okay, moving on to parks. Any questions concerning expenses in parks? Okay, moving on to systems.
Oh, I have an alibi on parks.
Sorry, we've already passed.
Huh? I know.
We already passed
I
that
know, I know.
category.
This is my alibi. Dar Olberding wanted me to tell you, Clint, that he and the good old boys that walk around the park on a regular basis are absolutely impressed with how nice that thing looks after after the Cherry Festival and how you got it squared away. Of course, I told him it'll be screwed up this weekend, but that's okay too. Well, no, I mean, it's amazing how much wear and tear that thing takes, and it keeps on ticking, and it's because you got some kids over there that are paying attention to detail. Yes, sir.
Some thanks to go to the fire department too, because they watered the lawn.
Only in certain
saw it.
spots. Okay, so now we're at the end of general fund on the expenses, and again, the very bottom of the green there, it shows you what percentage of expenses and what department they go to for the total of the general fund. Okay, roads and streets. Never enough money for roads and streets.
But we're getting better.
Any particular questions? Okay, library fund. Alice is spending some money next year. Okay, and then if you go down to the health insurance fund, you'll see that the 28,987 in the expended for 2018-19 budget, that was some leftover amounts from years ago that I talked to the auditor during our last audit that I wanted to get adjusted out of there, so they helped do that. And that was from, as you recall, there was a buy-down for employees. Everyone got $1,000 or something like that once upon a time for their buy-down. This is what was left over that was never used out of that program. So we did go ahead and transfer that over to general fund. So that's where, if you wonder where those dollars went, because it didn't continue through, that's where they went. Perpetual care, any questions on that big category? All right, and then we go down to cemetery. Ready to move on? Okay, to water, the big one, water.
Yes, sir.
I think like there's a really large decrease in water improvement.
Yeah, so the year past, we did some useful funds and transferred in with upping that, connection fee and stuff like that. Just kind of move some of our directions out of doing big upgrades and stuff like that. So on the usable, we won't need as much. I mean, this year, we hit usable pretty hard because we did a booster station and really overspent, but obviously we brought in a lot more. Our goal this next year is really just to get some of our low hanging fruit and do some similar, smaller upgrades, that would be very beneficial, but not, we're not doing booster stations and big lift stations and things like that.
Are we good with water?
I appreciate the fact it's in blue.
Yeah. Well, look at sewer. It's brown. So we're on page 11 for sewer.
Clint, how were you able to reduce stuff?
Because he's magical.
The bond was a big part, we split, it's one of the, we broke that up in water and we changed, it saves a a lot of money.
Saved a lot of money
Things around, but,
and paid down the debt, too.
and on the assume improvement there, we will have that, off on the lift station that will come in, so that's why that can't change too much. For this next year.
That's paid with the different funds, is that correct?
Yeah, so the goal is always to, if we can do it with, our budget, that works great, because, I mean, if we don't need to take savings, I mean, that's rainy day, but, the goal is in budget, we should be able to cover our lift station, so.
The ARPA funds, is that?
Yeah, so we won't be, the
not gonna
Hawthorne
water.
won't be, doing anything with the Hawthorne lift station, but obviously we'll be doing upgrades on our, booster station and our tank, and so that's another reason why we hold the water down a little bit. We'll be doing big water projects that won't come out of budget, we'll be doing.
And I did break down the bond payments, so you can see what each annual payment is on the 3 bonds. Okay, down to sanitation expenses. And then the technology utility fund expense. And then turning to the last page, 13, that'll give us our grand total for all funds. So as you can see, our total budget has increased 3% overall from the prior year.
And to date, it's a minimum of 6% for cost of living, or for inflation, I should say, increase. So we're not even treading water as a practical matter. I think it's going to be, by the end of the year, I think it's going to be 10% inflation.
So
And
any,
and most of it's going to be in things like fuel and, of course, products for us. Food for the normal folk.
any additional comments, questions that we need to discuss before we call it a wrap?
I have a question.
Yes.
Where does the city, the RV park and all that, the sewer and all that, where does that come in at? I missed that.
So are you talking about the revenues?
Yeah, the revenues
Okay,
and all that.
so
I
look on
missed that one.
page 1
Okay,
and go down about halfway, and it's 342016 City Park,
I see it, all right.
RV
That was the
park.
one I missed, I was
And
just
so we've
curious.
got $40,000 slated for the revenues to come in there.
Thanks.
Yep. And we will hit that. I'm absolutely positive we will hit
Yeah,
that, if not a little more.
I was just curious because the county's looking at getting rid of their RV park, the park over there, yeah.
You'll take it over, won't you?
No, I was talking about the fairgrounds taking it over.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, and what goes in there is the space rent and the $3 for the sewer drop. Yeah.
Guido, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Guido the kneecapper. He's an important part.
This is why when the county wanted to get rid of it, I'm hoping that none of our council members think it'd be a good idea for us to take it.
But you did such a good job, Clay.
It is a pain in the butt, but I'm looking at the fair board getting it, so, yeah,
That's perfect. We
Yeah.
love that, support that.
We support that idea.
yeah. Yeah, we got a good maintenance guy, so he'll do a better job of taking care of it, so.
Okay, guys, are we good?
Now, bear in mind, this is the best we can do with the information that we have. And we won't know for what, at least 2 weeks?
Probably. It'll be right close to our next meeting.
Yeah, well, yeah, it'll be really close to our next meeting on just exactly what's happening. But I'm confident that either way, we'll be able to adjust. And it may be that at the Dirty Bird, we're making major adjustments, but we'll be able to make it happen. I will tell you that this has been a challenge all year, but the departments have come through. There's not been any bickering or fighting well, I mean, Clinton Mike got into a scuffle the other day, but that was a different deal.
Pay for that one.
That was over who had the coolest haircut. So, I mean, that had nothing to
Or who has the most product in their hair.
Well, you won that one hands down.
God.
But,
Can we adjourn?
but the department heads have done a great job, and good grief. I mean, we couldn't get through this thing unless they were as grounded as they are and understand the overall mission. So we'll get it done one way or the other, and we'll be able to, we'll balance this thing, because we have to. There's no other way. All right. Any other questions or any other issues to be brought up at this time? If not, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor,
Yes?
I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
All right. Councilman Rosinkin
Second.
has moved to adjourn, and it's been duly seconded by Councilman Butler. Any further? No, there's nothing. It's an up and down vote. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. Hearing none. Any abstentions? Hearing none. We're in adjournment till about 7 o'clock.